I wanted to make a little video here on June 20th, 2019, talking about my radical body transformation, but I want to talk about my radical mental and emotional transformation. I've been surprised by how easy it's been to change the calories in, calories out part of all this. Like, yeah, my whole upside down my diet and my exercise, all that stuff, that's exciting and it feels great. None of that is a challenge for me. Surprisingly, because usually that's the hard part. When I was still addicted to carbs, that was the hard part. Now that I gave up the carb addiction, I have a lot more energy, I feel a lot better, and things are just kind of falling into place. Like I'm starting to suddenly understand things that I feel like should have been obvious all my life. Like that was right in front of my nose the whole time, and all of a sudden, like just things are falling into place. Like my mental fogginess is gone. And a lot of it too is that I work so hard on my emotional clarity in my therapy and in my personal life. I just work very hard to overcome the difficulties that I've been through. So, but what I'm finding this week is it's all about anger management. I had a big stupid day of misery yesterday with a company called Access to Care. I'm going to call them Access to Misery because that's the only thing I've been able to access through them. They were supposed to send a car to drive me to and from my dental appointment yesterday. The dental appointment went great. The dentist was like, oh, you must floss every day. Like, your teeth and gums are in great condition. And I was like, why, thank you. I didn't even need a deep cleaning. So, and that's something that I've learned on my own. Like, my mom didn't care enough about me to make sure that I grew up brushing my teeth every day, so I didn't. You know, she told me a few times when I was little, but I didn't stay with it, and she didn't care. So even as an adult, it really was only in my 40s when I started regularly brushing my teeth and flossing them. I think in my 30s I started brushing regularly, but in my 40s I started also flossing sometimes. And now I just do it all the time. It feels great to me. I can't imagine how I lived all those years with all that crap in my teeth. So, it's so gross. So, you know what I mean? Things like that where I just have a totally different perspective on myself. Same thing with the shoes. When I realized my Achilles tendon, now that it got so sore that it woke me up the other night, I actually looked it up on the internet, and hey, guess what? I have Achilles tendinosis. That's been like that for years. It's been thick and had a big, hard, painful lump in the middle. And I've never known what it was, but I'm not good enough at self-care to look it up until yesterday. So yeah, I need a good pair of shoes. And then once I realized, oh, hey, I need to get actually a high quality pair of shoes. It's going to cost me like $120. Like I had sticker shock from that. I can't imagine buying a $120 pair of shoes, even when I don't even have any. It's ridiculous. I'm ridiculous. That's just a ridiculous brainwashing thing of my mom. Yeah, a lot of people never buy a pair of Nikes. A lot of people in this world will never have them. But most people, if they had like some problem like I have with their foot, they would just go ahead and buy that because if you have a problem, you need to have something better. So that stuff seems kind of obvious, but I'm not angry at myself for not having mastered it until now. It is what it is. It's all part of the process. So the other part of the process that I've come across is that this week it's about anger management. Last week was about spontaneity, learning to go with the flow, and that helped me kind of recognize my gaps in self-care. And it's still about spontaneity and learning to go where the spirit moves me. So I did that this morning. I've been trying to find a time when I can go to the swimming pool, when I can use the lap lane to myself for 1 full hour without inconveniencing anybody else. So times when there won't be a lot of people there, because it is kind of expected that when it's busy you would share a lap lane, and I can't do that because of my PTSD. I'm not able to have random people moving around in my peripheral space. It just makes me far too anxious, and I'm not able to focus on anything but where that random person is and what they're doing. And it's just, I have to just, it ends up making me get out of the pool. So it's a simple thing, and it's a special need of mine that can be very difficult to explain to people. When I have tried to explain that to people, it's just like with comedy. When you're explaining, you're losing, you know, because when you're explaining yourself, you're giving that person the power to decline to accept or care about whatever you're telling them. And a lot of people will just automatically do that anyway. I decline to care about anything related to you. So that's narcissism. But anyway, so I've learned that thing with not being able to share a lap lane, that is one of the biggest challenges of my life. not only because I love swimming so much, but because it can be very challenging. A lot of times, because of the basic etiquette in my country, my friend Pat tells me that in Australia, people don't share lap lanes. They would be horrified by that. And that makes me think I should move to Australia and just end all of this drama. But like it shouldn't, I feel like it shouldn't be that hard for me to just be able to swim by myself without risking anyone touching me by surprise in the water. But it can be very hard to arrange that because a lot of people, if they ask to share your lap lane, they're not really asking, they're telling. So they want to hop in there with you, and then like that's what happened to me on Tuesday. So let me tell you that little story first. Well, actually, I had a quick thing that happened yesterday. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I had this stupid company called Access to Care that was supposed to send an Uber to pick me up to the dentist and take me back home after. So fortunately, I wasn't anesthetized because I call that company Access to Misery now because they are a miserable, horrible company that is hellish to deal with. So they blew me off. They stranded me out there. And I spent almost 3 full hours on the phone being gaslighted by Access to Misery, telling me that I'm not in their system. They don't know anything about sending me a car. I need to call my insurance company. My insurance company telling me it's not a them thing. Access to Misery has to do it. Call them, call them, call them, call them, call them. And I got into that bullshit. And it blew my gaskets. I got so angry. Like my voice is rough. My throat is sore. I'm not a person who screams. I really don't want to deal with anything like that. But I guess something about the gaslighting when they're telling me that I don't exist, that they couldn't possibly have sent a car to me when I know for a fact someone sent a car and it was them to take me over there. The gaslighting of that, them just declining my version of reality outright, I guess, suckered me into wanting to insist that I was correct. It seemed at first, I guess, like one of those things that this is so obviously a mistake that this has to be a mistake. This is a very obvious mistake, and the next person I talk to is going to understand it and fix it because it's obviously foolish and wrong. But that's not how life works, because that was just for me to learn that I'd rather be happy than right. Okay, I was 100% correct. Both Access to Misery and my insurance company get an F for doing their jobs yesterday. They did not do their jobs. They took me somewhere and stranded me there, and then I had to find my own way home. Point being, I had to find my own way home, so I could have done that without spending 3 hours screaming at idiots who are not fucking doing their jobs. You know what I mean? Because I needed to cut bait. I needed to see that, like, you're not going to get blood from a turnip. Access to Care is a poorly organized and run company, and they're not going to do their jobs. And my health insurance usually does a good job, but on that particular day, they were not able to overcome the extreme fuckery of Access to Misery. So, point being, if I'm going to take the bus home anyway, then I should just save myself the 2 hours of hell, because by the time I got home, I had such a headache from being gaslighted that rock hard and just having people fuck me over and fuck me around like that, that I couldn't do literally anything for the rest of the day. I just had to lie down and like let the headache pass. And I was so angry and I just fell asleep because it was so exhausting, that whole situation. And then I woke up angry again, and I'm still kind of angry about it now. But the point is, they suck. And when you know that you're dealing with someone impossible, you need to just cut bait, let them go. You're not going to be able to change the fact that the world is full of people who are not worth dog shit. So the other thing that happened, the other part of this is about the assertiveness that I have to work on. Assertiveness is very difficult for me. My mother was not agreeable to me asserting myself in any way, shape, or form. My mom had to have complete control over everything, and she was brutal. So I have a lot of extra baggage with that. I have a lot of baggage with setting boundaries about my physical space and having people not respect that. That triggers a lot of anger in me, much, much more than people who do not have PTSD can even imagine. Like, people think a lot of things, if it's small, if it's not a big deal to them, they think it's automatically not a big deal to anybody else. And the problem is, the world is full of a lot of narcissistic people like my mom and dad. The lady who crowded me in the pool on Tuesday, I'm very sure, was a covert narcissist. covert narcissists are just as bossy and annoying to deal with as regular narcissists, except they're sneaky and manipulative instead of loud and forceful, right? Like they're lacking in confidence and they're not very strong fighters. So what they do is manipulate and lie and mislead and pretend they didn't understand, right? They're very passive aggressive and sneaky. So when I got in the pool on Tuesday, I got the last open lap lane, and a lady came about 10 steps behind me, a woman who is maybe 5'4", 120 pounds, 60-something-year-old white woman who applies lipstick prior to stepping into the swimming pool. That dumbass actually went and applied this ugly coral lipstick. She's not wearing any other makeup. It just looked really stupid and ugly and made her teeth look very yellow. And applies her lipstick, and that's why she was behind me. That's why she didn't get into that lap lane before me. If she had gone in there before me, I would have just waited. I brought some cross stitch to do. I could go sit in the hot tub. I could do some cross stitch. I could do a number of different things. But I was already wet in the pool when she jumped in behind me as if I weren't there. So the first thing I said to her was, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm not able to share a lap lane." And she said, "Oh, I'll just be in the shallow end." Now, she was walking away from me. Like, I'm talking to her, and she's kind of not really acknowledging me. And I said about her, like, it's ordinarily people ask permission before they join your lap lane. Like, they at least tell you or something. Like, she just chose to pretend I wasn't even there. It's she's going to do what she wants to do, and I'm going to deal with it. So I told her no, and that was when I should have known I was dealing with a garbage bag, because the next thing I said was, "No, ma'am, I use both the deep and the shallow end. I need you to get out of my lap lane. Like, I'm using this lane. I'm already here." And she was like, "Oh, I'll just be in the back." Okay, that's intensely passive-aggressive. Someone's talking to you, setting a boundary with you, and you're telling them no while walking away. In Los Angeles, that's perfectly polite. In Chicago, you get your teeth put down your fucking throat, okay? Because key word in passive-aggressive in Chicago is aggressive, right? So I came up with a solution. I asked the guy in the next lane over if he could switch, and he was fine with that. But that lady is the exact sort of dumbass that I cannot have in my swimming lane, because she just kind of bobs around like a fool. She doesn't even like look. She doesn't even watch. She just floats around, and she goes all the way. She uses the whole lane. That's the thing about narcissists. They're liars. She doesn't just float around at the back corner. No, no, no. She uses the whole lane. She's a total pain in the ass. But, I mean, I guess that the way that I can only understand it is that lady wants to use that particular lane because of the silly little things she does with working out in the water. But she's in there for almost an hour. So my second thing that I asked her, well, how long are you going to be? Meaning, like, if you're only going to be 10, 15 minutes, then I'll just get out and wait for you to finish, which is not, I shouldn't have to do that because I was there first, but, like, I don't want to deal with impossible assholes. I have, like, just like I trained myself to become a person who does beautiful dental hygiene, okay, I also have trained myself to be a lady who doesn't cuss out random idiots in swimming pools. I'm not going to punch her in the face, but I definitely really wanted to. I mean, that's the thing. Like, she triggered my fight or flight mechanism with refusing to respect my reasonable, polite boundary or even talk to me like a person. Like, I said one thing, she said something kind of unrelated. You know what I mean? As if I hadn't said a word at all, as if I had no right to ask for privacy when I was there first. So, I mean, my hand definitely wanted to just punch her in the face repeatedly. Like, I could take her little chicken neck and snap it, kick her in the fucking stomach, and throw her out of the pool. She, you know, that's the thing about people like that. They rely on the social contract to not get killed all the time. They're annoying as hell, but I don't want to talk too much about that. Point being that the decision I made was to ask the guy in the next lane if he could switch with me, and he was fine with having that dingbat wandering around in his space. So that worked out great. I can be grateful for the wonderful pool that I have access to, that is such a nice place to swim, that guy was super nice about it. The other person who tried to climb in a lane with me the other time was also very nice about it. And that's the thing. When I see that there's people waiting, even if they're not trying to get into the space, I feel like I'm holding them up by taking up more space when they want to join me and they can't. So I just want to get out of the pool because I don't want to inconvenience people. I don't want to be in other people's way. But I'm not able to I don't. Once I get a car, I'll just go there in the middle of the night, and that'll be it. That's all she wrote. But meanwhile, I have to work on my assertiveness. So what I realized is I went in the next lane, and it was all fine, and I got my swim, and it was awesome. And then I realized that like I was avoiding that lady because I didn't want to beat her physically. And then my mind while I was swimming, I was really preoccupied with how angry I was at that woman. Like I really wanted to beat her ass. You just don't know. And I was thinking, first of all, she's not even worth it. Like she's not even worth me getting this angry about. She's literally garbage. And why should I care? So, but I realized, how should I, this is making me really angry. So what should I have done differently? How should I have responded differently? And I thought about what my other options were. I could have just gone ahead and two can play that game. I'm going to go ahead and swim, and I promise you I will kick and punch the shit out of her. Watch me. If she refuses to get out of my swimming lane, I'm going to find a way to plant my foot really fucking hard in the middle of her back. Believe it. So, but I don't want to do that. She's not even important enough. I don't even want to give her the satisfaction of pummeling her. I don't even want to give her a way to call the police on me for beating her and skull in. So, I've done a great job at being a person with my level of PTSD and developing this much of a medium setting where I can do something other than just fight or flight. So I give myself a world of credit for that. I give myself a world of credit for being a gracious enough lady to say nothing at all and get someone else to switch with me. I realize that woman wants to swim in that lane every time. And because of the asshole that she is, she just shows up at the pool whenever she shows up there and she jumps in that lane, whether anybody else is in it or not. She cares not. It's her world, and she will just shove people right out of it. So, but meanwhile, back at the ranch, as a human being, she's nothing. She's not smarter than me. She's not stronger than me. She's not braver than me. None of the above. And yet she gets to bully me. That seems like a paradox. So it is a paradox. I'm going to sit and think about how to turn such instances into performance art so that it can make me feel quite happy and hopefully make them feel humiliated, shameful, and suicidal. But I need to make it fun for me. If such people are going to insist on interacting with me despite every effort that I make to not interact with them, then I want that to be unpleasant for them. So I could have done a bunch of different things. I could have, as I said, swim there anyway and punch and kick her every chance I get. I could just continue swimming, and every time I see her, like I swim past her in the lane, I stop swimming and scream, "Bitch, get out of my fucking lane," in her face. Because that's the thing. Narcissists like that are really, they're so willing to step on other people, and they rely on the social contract to not have consequences come back at them about that. They, especially a covert narcissist, is very good at manipulating the social contract to be exploited and abused. They're all about exploitation and abuse of other people. So, it's just, I don't know. I just felt like what I did was correct. And why was I so angry about it? I guess that's just something I need to let go of. That may just be residual from the amount of abuse that I experienced. I mean, people literally killed me and no one even said a cross word to them about it. Just like with my teeth, the dentist was asking about my teeth, and I had forgot, I put it out of my mind by now, but this tooth here is a crown because when I was a child, someone punched me in the head and broke it. And that kid faced no consequences whatsoever. He was unprovoked. I had never seen him before. He was larger than me, punched a tooth out of my face, and nobody even said a harsh word. Like, you can hit me, you can do anything to me, and there will be no consequences. So that is just an emotional baggage that I carry. But really what I should do the next time is exactly what I did. I'm glad that I've become a gracious enough lady to be the bigger adult and just meet my own needs and let the little assholes be assholes and not get angry about it. I was angry about it. I still am kind of angry about it. Like, if I see her again, I wouldn't mind using words that make her think she's going to get her ass beaten, because I think that thought entering her mind would be super healthy for her. And it would be satisfying for me because she's a bitch. And I'm going to call her a cunt right to her face. Because if you call, I mean, it's almost an experiment. Like, I have been through so much shit. I've been through so many physical fights, verbal fights. Like, people have called me everything in the fucking world. People have choked me to death. People, you know what I mean? People have broken my teeth and bones. Like, I am not a person to fuck with. If Don Rickles had tits and had been raped a bunch of times and, you know, abused, he would be me. So, I mean, I am going to think about ways to turn it into performance art because I think humiliating and causing dismay to a narcissist is really the most satisfying thing in the world, you know. So I'm almost there. I'm coming around that bend. I think the fact that I can just feel good about who I am and not allow that little ass to be important, it's kind of like not letting shitty people live rent-free in your head. So sorry for all the swears and stuff, but this feels really important to me because it's a whole different way of interacting with life. It's a huge shift for me, although it may seem subtle to other people, but I need to be more of like, it's my world and y'all are going to need to deal with me on my terms. And that feels really good. Aside from how great I feel from all the swimming and the working out. And then, you know, when I was leaving the pool today, I felt just so grateful for what an amazing situation and how ultimately paradoxical it seems that when I decided to just not care about it, I'm just gonna go when the spirit moves me to go, just like that bitch just goes there and uses whatever that same lane, whether somebody's in it or not. I need to kind of be a little bit more like that. Like, I'm gonna go to the pool right now and I'm gonna let that be fun for me. And it's, if there's a lane open, I'm taking it. And if anybody wants to get in with me, the answer is no. And I need to stop trying to avoid that because when these things happen, it's for my practice. It's for me to practice saying no, protecting myself, asking for what I want, that sort of thing. Bottom line, there are a certain number of people in life who are impossible. Like that lady who jumped into the pool with me is 100% aggressive. There's nothing you can say to that woman to get her to respect your boundaries or care what you want or need. She doesn't care. She's going to do what she's going to do. And there's nothing you can do other than punch her, really. So, but I'm going to rethink that. I think that the performance art aspect is probably going to be pretty great. So I'm going to stop with the yibber yabber here, but I feel great. I feel a lot less angry. How about that? Isn't that beneficial? I feel much readier to just be happy instead of right. Like intellectually, I feel ready for that, but it's easy enough for people to trick me and get me going into the rabbit hole of their stupidness, and then that just makes me nuts. So I learned my lesson yesterday. Never trust access to care to actually pick you up and drive you back home. They're crazy and they're nuts. So, but also them or anybody else, like, don't even get angry enough. Like, next time somebody makes me angry enough to shout, I'm just gonna stop talking to them altogether rather than shouting for hours. I shouted at different people for fucking hours yesterday, and some of them I was actually being very nice to, but the thing, it was making me nuts because they were completely unreasonable. If it gets to that level, cut bait, man. The bus was really across the street. It just wasn't that big of a deal for me to get home. Just because I was correct and everything they were saying was completely insane, wrong, illogical, and fucked up, that just is what it is. You're dealing with an asshole, cut bait, leave. So, hope that's helpful for you guys. If you watch this whole big long rambly bambly video, please remember to like, rate, comment, and subscribe.